Hi guys, recently I've been getting a lot of questions on how I make my double triangle starts, so I thought I'd film this video to show you how to do it. This video will be broken down into two parts. In the first part, I'll explain how you make your double triangle start, and in the second part, I'll show you how to make it with an odd number of strings. So let's get into it. To make this start, you will need the number of bass strings cut in half because you'll be making a loop. And the bracelet that I'm making has 22 strings, so I have 11 strings here. So with my strings, I'm now going to make a loop, and if you don't know how to make one, I won't go over the details of how to make one, but there are tutorials on YouTube. And I'll come back when I finish my loop. Okay, so now that I've finished my loop, this doesn't have to be the final length of it, because later there will be a point when we can adjust it, and now it's time to make the first triangle. So basically you just make a normal triangle start like you usually would with an alpha bracelet. And again, if you don't know how to make one, there are tutorials on YouTube for it, and I won't go too much in depth about it. So once you finish the first triangle, now you can see how big the loop is in proportion to your triangles, and you can adjust the size of the loop if necessary. And I think that my loop is a bit too small, so I'm going to add some length to it. Now it is time to make the second triangle. I've taped down the bracelet in this way so that the bracelet is already in its final position, and you don't have to do this, but I find that it's easier to do because I don't have to untape and retape it when I'm doing the final row. Also, I usually use a clipboard, which is probably why my taping skills are questionable. Anyways, when you start the second triangle, you'll be adding new thread as the weaving thread, and it is different from the one in the other triangle, as you can see the tape down thread. And now you can start weaving the second triangle. So now I'm at the point where I'm finishing my second triangle, and after you finish the two triangles, you'll see that one weaving thread of one of the triangles ends in the middle of the bracelet and the other one ends on the side of the bracelet. It'll depend on the number of bass strings where the weaving threads end up, but you will be working with the one that ends on the side. For me, the right triangle is the one with the weaving thread that ends on the side, so I'll be using that to weave the final row, and I'll just push the other thread out of the way. And right now I'm just adding some extra tape to secure the bracelet in place while I knot the final row. So for this row, with the weaving string, you will knot across every string in the row until you reach the other side, so that you're connecting the two triangles together. So this row may look a bit wonky like mine, so you can just untape or unclip your bracelet and adjust the row with your ruler or nails or whatever you use so that you can straighten your row. You can also cut off the excess thread in the back, but you don't have to do this until the end of the bracelet, and I'll just do it to show you what a cleaned up double triangle start should look like. And there you go. This is how you make a double triangle end start for alpha bracelets. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make this double triangle start with an odd number of bass strings. So the bracelet that I am making right now has 15 bass strings, so I have 7 long strings and 1 short string, and this won't be folded in half when I make my loop. It's slightly longer than half the length of my other strings, and basically I'll just fold my strings like usual in half, and when I make my loop, I'll make sure that I knot over the short string. You don't have to do this, and you could actually just make 16 strings and just put one of the strings behind the bracelet and just not knot with it. But anyways, the point is that in my loop I have 7 strings on one side and 8 on the other. So now I have my finished loop, and on this side I have 7 strings, and on this side I have 8 strings. I'm just gonna go ahead and tape the loop down, and then we can start the first triangle. So now it's time to start making the triangles. I'm starting on the left side, and it doesn't really matter which side you start on, but on the left side I have 8 strings, which means that this is the side that I have 1 more string, and over here I just pretend that the 2 strings that are closest to the middle are going to be 1. So I'll just pretend that they're 1 string. And this is the case for the strings that are closest to the middle, and they are the 2 rightmost because I'm starting on the triangle on the left side. So it would be the leftmost if you were starting your triangle on the right side. So pretending that those 2 strings are 1 actually means that there are quote-unquote 7 strings that I have on this side. And so I'll be making 3 knots in this row, 5 in the next, and 7 in the last, splitting my strings with 3 in the left, 1 in the middle, and 4, or I mean quote-unquote 3 on the right. So now you can start making your triangle. Okay, so I finished my triangle, and you should have in the knot that's closest to the middle 2 strings still in that knot. And in every other knot in the row, you should have 1 string in each knot. So now it's time to start the second triangle. So this triangle has 7 bass strings, which is 1 less than the other side. So that means that I'm just going to make a normal triangle start. So now I've just finished the second triangle, which means that it's time to make the connecting row. And you use the weaving string that ends on the side of the bracelet to make this row. So for me, this weaving string is the right triangle's weaving string, because my left triangle's weaving string ended in the middle. So it really depends on the amount of bass strings that you have for which weaving string that you should use to knot the final row. So anyways, for the 2 knots that we pretended were 1 knot, they are now 2 knots again. So now you knot those 2 knots separately in this row. So after making this row, now I have finished successfully connecting the 2 triangles together, and I have 15 strings in this bass row. And now that you've finished making this, you can go ahead and adjust the knots and clean it up if you would like to. So here's the cleaned up version of a double triangle end start with an odd number of bass strings. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to start your alphas with double triangle ends, and if you still have any questions, you can always comment down below, or you can DM me on Instagram, or you can message me on Bracelet Book, and those will be linked down in the description below. I'll also be making a new video later on how to end your alphas, like see how to end them with double triangle ends. I just have to finish these 2 bracelets first, and then I will make that tutorial. So stay tuned, and goodbye and have a nice day.